Hey everyone, this is Riven with Cafeteria Cafe. Wanted to give a quick deck profile. I've been messing with a lot of stuff in regulation format, pauper format, and one of my favorite decks has been XROS Heart. I've messed with it a bit. I've won a couple. I have placed high with a couple locals with it. So I really want to kind of show it off. I think it's not going to be breaking any crazy molds, but I think it is a relatively consistent deck in this type of format, and it is very fast and strong. So we'll just kind of get right into it. So for eggs, I'm running one of the red Pikmin egg and four of the yellow Pikmin egg. Red one from BT19 and the yellow one from BT10. Yellow one's really good because it lets you always draw a card when attacking. You really need to draw cards in this deck because you do not really have access to Digivolving. So very, very helpful. The fifth Pikmin egg, it's when attacking, you can slot in under a tamer. It's mostly just in case games go long or you're just able to keep kicking out rookies. I think having a fifth egg can kind of help. I just think in regulation format, for the way this deck is designed, the yellow egg is much more important. Being able to just consistently draw, really, really nice. If this was somehow using stuff that was like clearly designed for the new way, that's why this egg is there. But it is nice to still just have a fifth egg. But easy enough. Next, we'll kind of get into the most important parts of the deck, which is your tamers. So you have Nene and you have Taiki. So these are definitely, the key to, doing your gimmick, your cross-hearting, or your digi-crossing. So both from BT19, both memory setters. Taiki lets you digi-cross with sources underneath tamers. Nene lets you digi-cross one under tamer, one in trash. She really helps you with you being unable to save maybe all your targets, or let's say something in security got hit and it's a piece that you need. Very, very helpful. As well as just having the 8 tamers. You're going to be using these tamers a lot, especially on turns where you digicross, swing, you die in security, you get some material save, you're going to digicross again, and you're just going to try and keep going. And you really need to see them, because without a tamer out, you can't material save, and then the deck kind of doesn't really work. But that's really about it. The only downside to Nene is she is Twilight in traits, so it does mean searching for her is a little bit more difficult in this deck, while most of this deck will never miss on Taiki. Alright, so now we're going to get into rookies, level 3s. So we have the new Sparrowmon from BT19, and we have the new Starmon from BT10. I'll go over these two first. So the Sparrow is mostly just there because you want another rookie. It's also helpful because you do need it for Cross 5. But it is definitely kind of like the weakest rookie you see. Just because sometimes collision can hurt you. There's been a lot of times where I want to swing for game, and if I digicross into Cross 5, I can cause a collision situation where I cannot swing for game because I force them to block. So it is a card you have to be a little careful about digicrossing. But again, having an extra rookie, really nice. You do need it for Cross 5. So that's Sparrow. Star, phenomenal. You need it for Cross 4, but also it lets you draw a card when attacking as an inheritable, which is, no digivolving, you need to draw cards. Very, very helpful little guy. So we got those guys out of the way. Now we get to the most important of the level 3s, your Shoutmons. He is, the true gas of the deck. Rush inheritable, really, really important. You're trying to be aggressive. You're trying to swing fast, not give your opponent really time to, react or interact. So we have the BT10 Shoutmon, which is a searcher. On play, you get to add a Digimon card and a Tamer card with XROS Heart traits. So Shoutmon's going to be able to grab your Taikis and grab any basically piece in the deck. So that's great. And again, he gives you the Rush Inheritable, which is the most important part of Inheritables for this deck. This Shoutmon, the BT19 one, is a little interesting. His on play lets him digivolve into an Omni Shout under your Tamers without paying the cost. There is definitely a version of this deck where you can run that. I'm still unsure about running the Omni Shout. Which Omni Shout you'd want to run. Realistically, you'd want to run one that has the Rush Inheritable and can hopefully like pop a body. But I haven't tested that yet. This list is still based on nothing from BT21. I guess I should clarify as well. I haven't tested it with the BT21 cards. But its on deletion is really cool. When he dies, you get to play a Tamer card with XROS Heart trait from the top 3 cards you reveal. So it's a little risky sometimes, but if this is the Shoutmon you get, you can Digivolve him back, KO Raising, second turn, swing. Let's say you don't have a Taiki in hand and you really need to see one. You swing, you check security, hopefully you die, and then you gamble for the Tamer. And then if you hit the Tamer, you can still slot him in underneath that Tamer, and that's pretty cool. So, most important cards, for sure. That's why I'm running 7 Shouts, just because you really need to see it. It is the thing you need on every crossbody. Now we're going to get to level 4s. This will probably look a little normal. I'm running 4 Darulus for BT10 and 1 BT19 Darulu. I do think this one's phenomenal. Being able to on-play and negative 3k a body is really great. In case someone's running Floodgates, this outs the Floodgates against your deck. So very, very helpful. I do think one of the BT19 Darulu is kind of nice. So Cross 3 and Cross 4 are going to be your most consistent, like what you're probably going to be going into often. But realistically, all your crosses use Darulu, Shout, and Ballista the most. So having an extra piece is kind of nice. And I think having Piercing on a body when let's say you're missing a Ballista or you're running a different Ballista is kind of nice as well. The minus security attack is also like a kind of interesting thing where there are times where you might want to not lower their security DP because you want to die in security and you want to be able to trigger material save so you can Digicross again that turn. It is kind of like a weird mindset to have, but there are times where you really want to kind of self-destruct under security so you can just keep going on combos. But there's your Darulus. Then, of course, you know, the third, I mentioned him just a little bit ago, but you have Ballistamon. Very great guy. And with that, I'm doing as well a 4-1 split. This Ballista is good because it is a blocker. So in case in scenarios where you need to have like a blocker out, it's kind of nice just to have an extra body that is a blocker. But I do think having one of the inheritable that gives one of your crosses blocker is really nice, especially if you have something like Cross 5 where you don't mind blocking with it, letting it die, and then using its on deletion to play out a body that turn. And it can even play out maybe this other Ballista. So if they're going to get multiple swings in, you can block with the Cross 5, this guy right here, and then kick out maybe a Cross 4 that's underneath, or maybe a Darulu to negative 3k a body. It gives you a lot of options. But there's your Ballistas. And then we get to kind of all your cross pieces. So 4 Cross 3s. This is from BT11. It is a searcher, so when you play it, you get to add 2 cards with Cross Heart or Blue Flare traits from among them. Rest go to the bottom of the deck. It basically will almost always hit 2 cards in this deck. It does whiff on Nene, which kind of feels bad, but otherwise you're hitting like 98% of this deck. The other cool thing it has is that start your turn, you can self-destruct it if it's still in play to gain a memory. And it does trigger the material save, so if there's turns where you really need that extra memory because you're trying to do something different combo-wise, or you just need the memory, you can self-destruct it for that memory. But it's a great body. It is a searcher. If you have all 3 sources, you're playing it for 1 to grab 2 pieces, and then swing with the body. It's great. Then we get into Cross 4. And I love the new Cross 4. So while kind of the old Cross Heart stuff all had material save, the new Cross 4 and new Cross 5 from BT19 have something kind of different. They effectively have material save, but better. Because they have an all turn. When the Digimon will leave the battle area, you can place up to 3 Digimon cards with the Cross Heart trait from the Digimon's Digivolution card underneath one of your Tamers. So that means that in case you were bottom decked, bounced, whatever the case, you still get your material save trigger, which is great because that was one of the weaknesses of Cross Heart. Was you get bounced and you lose all of your materials. Yeah, you get your body back, but you just lost, 3 sources, and that feels bad. This is really phenomenal. And then the other thing that's cool about it is if you do have all 4 Digicross pieces of Shout, Ballista, Darulu, and Star, you get to play it for free. So the potential to just kind of make really good turns with this card, really there. And then we're going to get into the last cross piece, which is Cross 5, again from BT19. So Cross 5 has similar to the Cross 4. When it would leave the battle area, you can place up to 3 Digimon cards with Cross Heart trait from this Digimon's Digivolution card under one of your Tamers. So great. Again, you can't bounce it, you can't bottom deck it without it still triggering its material save. But it does have an extra cool little tidbit of on deletion, you can play a 4-coster Lord Digimon card with Cross Heart trait from under one of your Tamers. So if it were to die, you can material save, and then you can play out one of those bodies. So it's great you can play out the Darulu and minus 3k a body. Maybe you kill a Floodgate, or maybe you just out a tiny body. You can play out the Ballista and have a blocker. Or maybe you just play out the Shout and you search again. There's a lot of, potential for this. Swing to security, it dies. Play out Shout, search bodies. Digicross again if you have the materials. It's great. The only thing that gets rough with this card, because if you do Digicross with all 5 pieces, you do play it for free, which is great. But having the Sparrow can be rough because it does give you collision. And again, you don't want this to be the last thing you try to swing on your opponent with to win the game. Because if they have an unsuspended body, the collision will force them to block. And that can sometimes, honestly, lose you the game. Or at least force you to make a different type of play. So that's like the one thing that's come up a couple times where you have to kind of like measure out when you want to use your Cross 5. All right. And then this is where it gets a little interesting. I'm running one more Digimon, which I'm running the Luminamon. And this is from BT19. It is a Cross Heart and trait. And it looks for 3 cards, one with Cross Heart, Blue Flare, or Twilight. So what that means is it can grab your Nenes, and it can grab everything else in the deck because it has Cross Heart and trait. So that's pretty nice. And then at the end of that, of the search effect, you can play a 4-cost Tamer from your hand, which means you're playing your Taiki, you're playing your Nene. The only thing that's rough about this card is it is a 5-cost. So there are times where it can feel bad playing this and passing 5 memory, but I have had some kind of gambly games where I will go first, Digivolve in the back, and I either have the Tamer in hand, so I know I don't need to search for it, or I don't and I really do. You slam Luminamon, you grab a piece or grab a Tamer, slam your Tamer, and then the next turn you did pass 5, but you are guaranteed 3. You're going to kick out a Razor if you're rookie, and you might just get multiple swings in of Lumina swings, the rookie swings, then you Digicross swing, and you can, get 3 checks on that turn too, and you put a lot of pressure on them. The downside is you potentially gave them time to set up. But it's kind of a risk with the deck of trying to go fast, and when you find time to play this card, it is a little rough. So I can see people not running it. I think it's kind of nice as like a 2 of, but it is a very weird card. And then lastly, we have just 2 options we're running. We're running Crimson Blaze, the classic BT8, great red option, and 2 Burning Star Crushers. So for Crimson Blaze, kind of self-explanatory. One of the best red options they've ever printed. It reduces by 1 for every Digimon your opponent plays. So it's great against wide board decks. But the really important part is the secondary effect, which makes it so your opponent can't play Digimon by effects until the end of their turn. This is really nice because in regulation format, Pauper format, purple is pretty strong, as well as I think green is pretty strong. And decks like Skull Mammothmon kind of just play out bodies pretty easily. They can run the I can't remember its name. It's the level 5 purple Digimon that plays out a level 3. There's a lot of cards they have that just play out bodies, and being able to play this for reduced costs, out all the bodies, and deny them the ability to play out more bodies is very, very helpful. It also works against green in case you're running like Plant Engine or Argo and you're trying to trim down their wide board. Very, very nice. And then Burning Star Crusher is kind of like how you out a couple things, but also it's a beautiful security trigger. So it lets you pick one of your level 4 or higher Digimon with Shoutmon name, so all of your cross pieces, and it lets you delete a Digimon with DP less than or equal to the chosen Digimon. So it does mean it makes it really easy for you to delete level 5s because your cross 4 and cross 5 are 8k and 10k respectively. You're probably not missing a level 5 on your turn. So it's good at stopping things. Once it hits level 6, this card gets much, much worse. So the goal is to really kill your opponent or kind of overrun them before they can hit maybe like a really strong tower. That's the one problem this deck can sometimes have. But the security effect is what I really love about this card. You reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, you add one card with XROS Heart trait among them to your hand, and then you can play a Taiki that's among them without paying its memory cost. So there are times where this gets hidden security, you get a piece, and you play a Taiki if you're lucky enough. And obviously this is a little high rolly, but like that sets you up so well if it gets hidden security sometimes. That I think it's just very, very strong. But that is currently what my deck list looks like. There are definitely some things that you can probably play around with now that the new BT21 is out. We have the new cross-up option. We have a new Omni Shout. But I think those are really the only two that are going to really come into play. I don't think necessarily the new Shoutmon is worth it. And I don't think the new King mode is worth it. But again, there's a lot of potential. I'd love to hear people's comments on what they think of XROS Heart, maybe tech plays that you add in. There is a lot of room for kind of shoving different pieces in. And I do think XROS Heart is honestly an incredibly fun deck in this format. It's very fast, it's very aggressive, and it's playing on obviously a very different access than standard Digimon because you're not Digivolving, you're just kind of hard playing bodies that just go nuts and swing. So give it a try. And I appreciate you listening to this deck profile.